Hello, everyone. It's Leanne Barber, the owner of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga. We're back in action with our second season of our Heart to Heart video series. And as you know, originally I started this with the intention of bringing people together during the pandemic and just inspiring students during a difficult time. It really brought me back to connections with some of my favorite people, dancers, entertainers, athletes, business owners, mentors, and friends. And I'm so grateful for all of you who have joined and been a part of the journey as we had 35 guests total, which just blew my mind. But I'm so happy 35 videos later to be bringing this back. I hope that it brought a smile to you, and I hope that we can continue through 2022 with a new light and appreciation for each other. So thank you all for being here. I'm super happy to kick off my first episode of the new wave here with Natasha Filipov. Natasha has been involved in the arts since she was 2 years old. She trained in theater and dance, and she has a diverse background performing in show choirs, theater programs throughout the South Jersey and Philadelphia area. She was on competitive teams and a Division I collegiate dance team. She was an NFL cheerleader for the Philadelphia Eagles for 3 years. Her favorite styles of dance are jazz and hip hop. She works in corporate communications and is the founder of her platform called This Blonde Means Business. She's covering all different things from entrepreneurship to professionalism and empowers women all of the time, including myself. I've become such a fangirl of Natasha, so I'm so happy to have her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, what an introduction. You make me sound way cooler than I am. Thank you for having me. And 35 interviews in season one is such an accomplishment. So congratulations. And I'm so honored to be opening up season two.
Thank you so much. We are just so happy to have you, and we're glad that you're a local Philly girl here. So happy to have our kind of Philadelphia Eagles fan base behind us here.
Yeah, happy to be on and love Philly. Just moved back. So my
Yay!
favorite city.
Awesome. You were the class of 2021 from Drexel Business School. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How are things going?
Yeah, it's been crazy, right? Being the class of 2021, I essentially graduated in the middle of the pandemic still. And unlike a lot of my peers who graduated in 2020, I did get a ceremony. I did get to walk, which was so special. But I had ACL surgery the day before my graduation. So I was limping, not really walking across Citizens Bank Park, but we still made it work. It's just been an all around crazy year. Like I've had some high highs and I've had some low lows. And I think that everyone can probably say that. But I will say all of the lessons and things that I learned this year, I really consider such a blessing. I'm right now at a time where it's really exciting. So I just graduated. I just am starting my career. I just am realizing kind of the future of what I want to do. I'm just now expanding my platform, This Blonde Means Business, and focusing on prioritizing that, teaching dance. Like I just started modeling. There's so many new things on my horizon that I had some challenges in 2021, as I'm sure everyone has, but I'm really excited for this new year. I'm really grateful for everything that 2021 gave me and have a lot to look forward to. So it's good.
That's amazing. Congratulations. We're so happy for you. And yeah, getting off to a new start, and 2022 is going to be a better year for all of
I
us.
know, like 2020 and 2021 were oddly like very challenging years for me, like just life things and the pandemic and trying to graduate in the middle of the pandemic and job search and tearing my ACL and dealing with injury and getting cut from the Philadelphia Eagles after like a 3-year tenure, like all these things that really like I thought were going to kill me, just changed who I was so completely and transformed me. And I think that that's just something really neat about the past years. It's like, yes, they were the hardest years of my life, I'd say thus far, with like so many challenges, but I also think that they were my favorite years despite that, because I've learned the most and I've transformed the most, which is really, really cool to say. So anyone who had a crappy 2020 and 2021, I'm feeling it. 2022 is going to be our year. That's what I just keep manifesting. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, what do they say? You have to go through the darkness to see the light. So
Yeah.
totally agree with you, and just looking forward to all the things that you're doing. You really came out in a better light, in my opinion, just seeing it from the outside in. So we'll get into all of those
Yeah,
details.
sounds good.
Tell us how you were as a kid and how you kind of got into the world of dance.
Yeah, so my mom put me in ballet, I guess, when I was 2 years old. from there, I continued to expand my experience of different styles and studios. And I was also put in the performing arts. So I guess it was like in fourth grade, I was like, let me do the school play. I dance. And I got like the lead. Like I got like the Scarecrow and the Wiz, which was like a big deal at the time because I was like this little fourth grader, and like the cool eighth grader, it was only a K through eighth school. The cool eighth grader was like Dorothy, and everyone else was like seventh grader. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am the coolest thing since sliced bread. Like I am the Scarecrow. So that was my big break into the arts. And then I did a lot with Main Stage Center for the Arts in South Jersey as I was growing up. And I feel like that's where I really found my calling and my place and my love for theater and dance, just across the board in so many different capacities. And did their summer camps and did their show choirs in high school and in middle school. And then in high school, I tried out for my school's dance team, which was organized by Courtney Daniels at the time, who was a former Philadelphia Eagles cheerleader. And so that was my first introduction with, the idea of being a Philadelphia Eagles cheerleader one day. Fast forward, I went to Drexel. I tried out and made their Division I dance team my freshman and sophomore years. And then also met additional, now they're my best friends, but people who were Eagles cheerleaders. My one friend, Marissa Hill, who is like a really good mentor of mine and quite literally my best friend, and tried out for the Eagles, did the Eagles. So my background with theater and dance was like a very gradual progression, right? And people always say like, oh, did you always want to be an NFL cheerleader? And I was like, no. Like I really just love the arts. I see myself as an advocate for the arts, and I really hope to, combine my business passion and interest with, advocacy for the arts in the future. But it really was a series of serendipitous events and moments that kind of led me to get to where I wanted to go, and led me to do the Philadelphia Eagles, and then led me to teach dance now and inspire others. And I love doing that. I love choreographing. I love working with the little ones, and adults too. So yeah, I got very lucky, like I wasn't one of those people that was like, this is what I'm going to do. It was like, hey, maybe I'll try this. And if this works out for me, what a fantastic experience. And taking the pressure off myself in that way, that, hey, if it's meant to be, if it works out, if this happens, this will be incredible. This will be a great chapter of my life, but not needing to make it, not needing to, have any one typical experience or have any one dance journey was really, I think, it made it more enjoyable for me as I grew up.
I think that's the beauty of arts and dance in general. Like you can go down so many different paths. Like, I don't know, you could want to be a theater dancer and then end up being, on a cruise ship or something like that.
Yeah.
All of your training really continues and progresses into your ultimate journey, and it doesn't have to be just one thing. I tell my dancers that all the time, and I love that you're like living proof of that things can kind of just happen and things kind of spur up, and if it takes you that way, it takes you that way. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and you're still grateful for the opportunity. So thank you for kind of sharing that and bringing that all together, because I just love how it doesn't have to be one certain way, and you don't have to be like, this is what I want to do to get
Yeah.
you to that place. Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah. And you don't have to have like, you can play to your strengths, right? So and you can change your interest at any time. So, like personally, like I never had the beautiful, flexible feet and arches for like point. Like I would never be, a ballerina. Like that it wasn't my reality. It wasn't in the cards for me. And I knew that, but I knew that I had really strong performance skills. So I was like, okay, how can I adapt this strength? How can I play to this strength and adapt my plans? Like if I want to keep performing, if I want to be successful. And so like anyone listening, I just encourage you to like kind of take an analysis of what you're really good at and play on that and go from there, because you kind of have to hone your competitive advantage and then exercise it and execute it in front of others, right? At an audition or just as you're dancing, as you're performing, like that gives you the confidence to really go for what you want.
What were some of like your biggest challenges that you had growing up in dance?
Previewed the question. I literally could not point my feet. Like this is funny because like it's just so like it's funny, but it's so true. I had the worst feet. I had the worst arches. I just naturally like did not. I like they tried to put me in point one year, and I remember I was like the human prop in the middle that was like bourreeing for 3 counts of 8 because I could not do like single leg stuff. Like it was not my thing. Like it just wasn't. I was really flexible. I was pretty strong as a dancer. Like I had every other thing, but I could not, I did not have that going for me. My dancing coach would be like, Natasha, point your feet. And the assistant coach would be like, no, no, she can't. Like, she really can't. Like it was a real challenge for a while. And then I just had to learn how to like make it work the best I could and again adapt and play to my strengths. But that was a real challenge of mine. And then I think another challenge was just like I definitely had technique, but I went to like a high school where there were really, really talented dancers coming from all different studios across South Jersey, and they were really strong. So constantly I was in competition with those around me who, could do 4 counts of 8 fouettes when, I didn't have that strength or you know, other things of that nature. But I knew what my strength was, and that was the performance. And that was probably evident of my theater background because I learned showmanship. I learned, like, I would be the one who at an audition, I wasn't doing 8 counts of fouettes, but I was definitely standing there in a fourth position with my shoulders back and a smile on my face, staring down the judges. And that made the difference. And I got told that as I advanced too, that like that made the difference in a lot of cases. So even if you don't have like the technique or the technicality, or you think that you're not as good as someone else, like you can still find something that you are better at. And I don't mean better, like, I'm collaboration over competition. Unfortunately, the dance and performance industry is very competitive. That's just the nature of it. But I just mean that there's enough room for everyone to shine. So find your place where you can shine and really hone in on that. That's what I did.
Absolutely. And I always say, it's not always about the technique. Like you can be the best technical
Oh,
dancer in the room, but if you don't have the showmanship, nobody's going to watch you. Nobody's going to
yeah.
see a boring, pirouette series. Nobody wants to watch that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really
I mean, like literally you can perform all you want and do as many tricks and flips and cool stuff. But if your face is dead the whole time on stage, like you're not winning a competition. You're not getting picked for a team, like you have to kind of have both to some degree. And that to me is like the fun part, right? Like that's the part that I knew I was good at it and I loved it. Like I constantly so this is kind of embarrassing, but I'll tell the story because it's funny. When I was in show choir back in like high school, we would perform like all together, and it was a large group of us. We were probably like a show choir of like 40, but I would almost like play this game with myself. Whereas at every performance, I would tell myself whether it was like a fair or like a Christmas lighting or like the most random, gigs, I would, perform. And if I didn't have, or if I didn't catch at least like two, I would like up the number every time. So I'd be like 2 people staring at me or 3 people staring at me, or I'd be like, you're not going hard enough. And so then I would go bigger and dance crazier and make bigger facial expressions and have more fun or sing louder. And I look back and I'm like, that is such a tactic. But, it really, that fearlessness to just go for it and, you know, enjoying people watching you and getting joy from your performance was something I just loved. And I still love to this day. I think business to a certain extent is a performance a lot of times. So
yeah. Yeah, and it definitely shows with you. You just have so much passion behind what you do. And when I see something that I like, I just have to share it with all of my students.
oh, I appreciate that. I try to be that way. I've been really, really blessed and lucky. And so anything that I can impart, if it inspires anyone, I'm happy to connect, and I love connecting with others. So
Wonderful. And you kind of said how, you organically learned about the Eagles and you had a mentor that was an Eagles cheerleader and you have friends that are Eagles cheerleaders. Can you tell us how you kind of transitioned into wanting to audition, what your audition experience was like, and just your overall experience being on the field?
yeah, so I had done 2 years of Division 1 collegiate dancing under my belt at that point, and I distinctly remember the moment. I was really just going at it. Again, maybe I was like playing that game with myself, where it was a basketball game. No one was there. No one. I love Drexel. I will sing Drexel's praises to the rafters. Like I have so much appreciation. I'm such a proud alumni, but I will say they had no school spirit. Like our basketball, and maybe it's changed, but when I was there, our basketball team actually got maybe two people to come per game. It was very, very, very quiet. That didn't stop me from living my best life on the sidelines. Like I was having fun. And I remember like I was really getting into it, and I was adding extra hair flips and just like living my life. And people would be like, "Oh my," like they would like my teammates would kind of make fun of me, but they would also like do the same thing I was doing. Like we were just it had pushed us all to perform bigger. And I remember my captain at the time, and this is no shade, but she was like, "Hey Natasha, maybe like just tone down the hair flips." And I was like, because I had gotten positive feedback from my coach that this was, and that was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm not growing here anymore. Once you tell me to tone it down, like that's a place where I'm like, I need to do something more. Like, how can I elevate this experience? Plus, I was young. I was 18 at the time. So I was like, I'm so young. I'm getting all this experience. I was like, let me just try out this upcoming year and see what happens. So I went into the audition process. At the time, the audition process was like a 4-month long process. And with every round that I kept making it, I was like, oh my gosh, I made it. I was like, oh my gosh, I made it past interviews. Oh my gosh, I made it to finals. And I was excited, but I was also cautiously optimistic where I was like, again, if this works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, like I'm still on a collegiate Division I dance team and I'm still learning. And I have so many friends on that team. And like I had, it's not like a fallback, but I had another way and another outlet of performing. So it wasn't the end all be all. My name got called on stage, and I always say, and I'm writing about it actually for like a project that hopefully will come down the line and get published. But in that moment that my name got called on stage as one of the 36 Philadelphia Eagles cheerleaders for that year, I felt this validation that I could do whatever I wanted in the future, Eagles related or not. It was my validation of like, okay, you pushed yourself, you worked really hard, you accomplished this. What else could you possibly accomplish in the future? And fast forward, so 3 years later, last year I had an injury, and who knows the reasonings, and I don't wonder really, because I think everything happens for a reason, but I got cut, and people were like, oh, like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm more than okay, because I know what I'm capable of. And this was not my end all be all. It was a fantastic experience. It was so much fun. Game days were the best when you arrived to the stadium super early and you got ready to go practice on the field, and you practiced on the field. And then we would go back and we would have our hair and makeup done. And then we would get, change into our uniform, spend time together as a team, pray, go out on the field, do our thing, dance games, rotate quarters. It was a blast. And those are memories that I will always think fondly of and hold with me forever. So it was just an incredible chapter. And I don't think anything else of it but that. I was like actually at an event last night for one of my best friends who's getting married, and we're bridesmaids in her wedding. And ironically enough, I met her through Eagles. So the connections that I have through that organization and the best friends I made are still so much a part of my life and are still something that I'm really, really grateful for. So it was a fantastic experience. And anyone listening that wants that experience or wants to try out or be part of an NFL, NBA team, I really encourage you to do it. And, people always ask, oh, like, what I have to do? Like, what's your recommendation? And it's so corny, but I always say, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Like, whether they want you or not, that's not your problem. I know that like a lot of times people trying out, they really want it so bad that it's like, it almost makes you kind of freeze in terror or in horror or like in hesitation of, oh my gosh, how should I actually want me? And I always feel like I need to remind people and reinforce the idea that like, if they want you, they'll take you regardless of, how you show up. Like if you just show up as yourself and as professional, and if you try your best, if they want you, that is fantastic. And that is, I think, what is meant for you. And if not, like there's so many opportunities out there. Keep trying. Every team is so different. Every team is looking for a different fit. Like the world is so big. We're from Philadelphia, and I love Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Eagles will always be like my team. But there's so many NFL teams. There is so many NBA teams. There's lacrosse. There is so much out there that you can do, and there are so many places you can perform. So don't let any one audition or one team intimidate you of going for that dream if you really have it.
Absolutely, beautifully said. And I love how, your experience, you said that was like your validation for being able to do whatever you wanted. And I love that so much, because it's not just about making a team. It's not just about NFL. It's not just about being a cheerleader. It's about knowing that you can achieve a goal no matter what you're doing. So I love that so much. And I love how you've kind of continued to build your platform in this way, and being able to to go for your goals and inspiring others to do that, no matter whether it's pro cheer or it's business world, whatever it is.
Relevant to just dance, right? Like it's just this idea of this transferable determination that
Right.
when you work to achieve a goal, whether you achieve it or not, by the way, you should be really proud of yourself and feel empowered to go after whatever you want to go after. So that's what I think. That's the main thing that I think NFL did for me, besides my friends and close people in my life that are from the organization.
Awesome, wonderful. So you talked a little bit about your platform, and I really want to get into it because I just love seeing what you're doing. So you started, yeah, you started This Blonde Means Business. Can you tell us how it started and where that idea came from?
Yeah, so I was in college and I gave a TEDx talk on gender inequality in the workforce because it was something that I've been seeing. So at that time in my life, I was on the Eagles and I was working in an internship. And, like as a woman in business, I had certain things that I was encountering. And as a cheerleader, there were things that I was encountering. And I was really bothered by the idea that like women couldn't or faced a challenge in the idea of doing or being at all, right? Like I felt like, and I think an exact line or something close to that from my TED talk was like, I'm either the cheerleader on Sunday and the college student on Monday, or the, business person on Wednesday when I go to my internship. Like I am me and me is all of who I am. You can't segment me into these different boxes because it's just me. And that's still something that I'm figuring out to this day, right? Like even working full time and like modeling and like teaching dance and running a platform, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have a lot of passions that they all make up me, and how do I continue to embody all of these identities and all these things all the time, because society has this tendency to only see us as one thing, only the businesswoman while we're at work, or only the mom while we're at home, right? Or only the, and it's like, how do we integrate all these to just be our truest selves? And so then This Blonde Means Business was born from that experience. I found that there needed to be a platform where people were talking about this, and specifically it is most relevant to business because that's the field I'm in. But I really just wanted it to be a platform where people could share their career stories and get inspired from hearing about others' entrepreneurial and career journeys, and then take those lessons that they heard, right, and realize that those were applicable in their own life, that they could also achieve what they wanted career wise and ambition wise through other people's stories, through hearing what they did, through hearing how they did it. Because that was what inspired me in business school. It wasn't learning econometrics, it wasn't sitting in the finance class and studying the theorems, right? Like it wasn't learning about the 4 P's of marketing. Like it was hearing from the guest speakers who came in that were really successful or that were really passionate about what they were doing in their careers. And so that's what I wanted to do with This Blonde Means Business. And then the second fold of that is I wanted to provide tips and tricks for people to achieve that. So that's what we aim to do, with a side of fun entertainment every now and then, and some fashion advice, and some things that also are very much just me. But that's what I'm doing with This Blonde Means Business now. And it's a passion project, but I am looking to grow it. I'm looking to hire some interns. If anyone is interested listening to this, you can reach out. But it's really exciting. It's really exciting. I love what I'm doing. I put my vision board on my desk the other day that I made like a year ago. And first of all, highly encourage everyone to do that. Every time I'm working from home or I look down at my laptop or I see my vision board, and I was actually doing a different podcast and my eyes just glanced over at it, and it was the words like, even if it's not super profitable, it feels really good to come to work every day. And that's how I feel, right? Like there's a reason that I'm working so hard after I work my 9 to 5 doing podcast interviews. And you can relate to this so much, obviously, with your successful platform too, but like giving others the opportunity to highlight what they've done and collaborate. And I've had so many people be like, oh, I listened to this episode, like I learned something, I was really inspired. That is the best feeling. So I'm really excited to continue with the project and continue growing it. And I'm always looking for entrepreneurs to talk to and interview. And I've personally learned so much from them, from these interviews. I think it's the best development. I think it's the best internship. I think it's the best work experience you could give yourself, is just throwing yourself in the deep end and being like, I'm going to start this, XYZ project. So whatever that may be for you, if you're interested in doing something like that or starting it, This Blonde Means Business started as a blog, is now a podcast, is now hopefully turning into something else in a few months. So, it's been a really, really fun journey.
That's amazing. And it's just been beautiful to see you growing over the past couple years here, just as, someone just watching you. It's wonderful that you're inspiring others to do the things that you're doing, but then also like maintaining your identity, just being yourself. I think that's so important in everything. And, you touch on how you feel like you need to wear different hats in different scenarios when it doesn't have to be that way. I feel like, I'm going through that same thing too, being a new mom. It's like, you have this new hat that you're wearing on your head, and it's like, how am I supposed to, act in when I have my mom hat on? How am I supposed to act when I have my business hat on? How am I supposed to act when I have my dance coach hat on? But really, it's just being you and just being genuinely authentic to everything that you're doing. So thank you for inspiring me, for one, but thank you for inspiring many other women who are going through the same thing, whether you have a side hustle and are trying to, continue that, or whether you have a 9 to 5 that you're, so deep into. It's really important to make sure that you're staying authentic in all the things that you're doing. So really just appreciate all your words of wisdom. Your content is amazing. Really fun, really informative. So if you haven't seen, check out this Blonde Means Business, because you've been just very inspiring to myself as well. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
What I try to
do. Wonderful. You're doing it. So lastly, Natasha, and thank you so much for your time. But lastly, so much has changed over the last 2 years. The job market, some have completed or completely changed their career path due to the pandemic. Some have created their own businesses. Remote work has become such a thing that others don't want to even go into the office anymore. What general advice do you have for young women and men who are going through kind of a challenging time right now to succeed as professionals in the business world, even when things are just strange right now?
Yeah. So the first piece of advice, I'll try to like tie it all together, what we've talked about, is to just be yourself. In September, when I first started my career, I asked a mentor of mine at my organization, at my company, hey, I noticed you have this bodybuilding, this fitness business on the side. How much of that do you bring to work, and how much of it do you feel like you have to hide or leave at home? And he kind of was like, what? He's like, I don't. I bring my full self to work. And we did an entire podcast episode around it. So if you haven't, or if you're interested, I'll plug the episode. It's with Antonio Stevens of 20 Fitness, and it's on my page. It's This Blonde Means Business, available on all standard streaming platforms. But he just gave such great advice. So the first, and that's something that I've tried to really model in my career in just the few months that I've been in my career. But I try to bring my whole self to work, right? And so that means, articulating, tonight I'm teaching a dance class, or, talking about a lesson I learned at work, maybe on my blog. So just be you. Like I've noticed the most successful people at work are the most themselves and the most authentic. I think people sometimes feel like they have to act as robots, especially in business. They have to be so professional. There is a combination of professionalism and being authentic to who you are, right? And I think people have a hard time identifying that, but they're not mutually exclusive. So that's my first piece of advice, is just to be you and be professional. And the second piece of advice I have is just to try to engage with your coworkers and your colleagues as much as possible, whatever industry you're in. I'll tailor it more toward business because that's where I am. But like, I had to push myself. People are like, "Oh, you're such an extrovert. You do all this thing with like This Blonde Means Business, and you do pod." I'm actually very introverted, right? Like I'm an introverted extrovert. So networking for me is not, I don't wake up in the morning and say, like, "Oh, you know what? Today I'm going to network." That's not like fun. It's not fun for me, but I force myself to do it. And then I always have fun meeting new people, engaging with new people, learning new ideas, collaborating. So if you're not, maybe you're just like, I love networking and it's so much fun. But if you're not, force yourself to go out of your way to interact with your colleagues more, right? Set monthly touch points, set biweekly touch points with mentors, have regular check-ins with your boss or your manager. Especially if you're remote, but if you're not remote, still continue to do that. And then something that has helped me in my early career is going into the office. So it's scary. We're used to this pandemic remote way of working. I literally forgot how to like wear makeup and put on a business suit and like business casual professional clothing when I first started. And a quick Marshall's haul, luckily, was the fix for me. But, I think that there's something to be said about the face-to-face interaction and connection with colleagues. that is harder online. It's not impossible. It's very possible to do. The pandemic and Zoom world and all of these different online applications prove that we can 100% work and operate productively as if we were in person. But there's just something about running into someone on your way to the restroom. There's just something about offering to get a cup of coffee or go on a walk with a coworker in the middle of the workday. There is something to be said about, turning your head and asking a question versus having to open Teams and start with hi and then type a question out. So if you can go into the office, if it's an option, I do encourage everyone to just go in, like, even if it's once a month, just to have some type of face-to-face interaction, because I do think ultimately it helps you get to know your colleagues quicker and vice versa. And I think that that's a more feasible way of advancing and developing your career and yourself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There is something to be said about the face-to-face interaction. And I think so many of us have like missed out on that over
Yeah.
all of this time. So being able to kind of throw yourself back into it, even if, it feels weird or feels funny, like still throw yourself into it, because just that kind of interaction and just the need to connect with people, you don't get that.
No, you don't. And it's the same thing as kids with school, right? And I actually I
Yeah,
don't know if I
exactly.
posted it or if I am posting it, but there's a video I just made where I make an analogy to the business world, and it's applicable again to most career fields and kindergarten, right? Like, we get up, we get dressed, we pack our lunch. Like, the principal is just the CEO. Like, the field trips are just the site visits. Like, you have to commute or transport, not on a bus, but like in your car. Like, it's the same thing. Like, we've all done it. You've done it before. Don't get intimidated of going back to the workplace. So it's been good. It's been really good to see colleagues in person again, and it's been helpful for me as I start my career. So I encourage other people to try to do the same.
Yeah, and the same goes with like the dance world too. Like it's been awesome to get back
Yeah.
into classes again and get back into, dancing next to somebody who is a complete stranger and being able to keep up with them, or challenging yourself, trying to do that double turn, whatever it is. So just the physical getting back into things has been really helpful. So thank you for inspiring all of us. And it's been great sitting down and chat with you. And I'm just excited to see what is in store for this Blonde Means business and all the other things that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited for your brand and to come teach in a few weeks again. Bring some sassy, fun jazz back. And I'm excited to continue watching. And to any students of yours listening or anyone listening, I am always happy to be a resource in any capacity, in any way, and help anyone in any way I can. So you can find me on all social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and please reach out if anyone need anything.
Thank you so much for opening that door for everyone. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you later in January and dancing with you again. Thank you so much.
Me too. Can't
Thank
wait. Woo.
you so much.
Thanks, Leanne.